So what we have discussed in the previous class is business theory. Today's class in this chapter, two theories are important: business theory and Westgard theories. Okay, in this Westgard theory, in the business theory, we have assumed that soil is uniform. I mean, there won't be any layers and all. So Westgard solution assumes that there are thin sheets of rigid metal. I mean, sand, some layers or clay layers, sand which between the two sand layers. Okay. So this particular theory, Westgard theory is valid. Okay. Then again, what we'll do is, again, this Westgard also given the vertical stress sigma z at a distance or at a depth of z, okay, below the concentrated load q, okay. So here the equation may little vary, okay. So here both they have not given any derivations, okay. So these are all the equation based on their research work, so they have given. And here this is what the 11.52 equation is, a Westgard equation, okay. And for a material, I mean C here is the again he has defined the C, and the mu is the Poisson's ratio. And for an elastic material, if we keep it as 0 to zero point 0.5 in between or 0, and finally what we'll get it, what he says is we can write this equation into a IW multiplied by Q by Z square. What was the equation, business equation previously? Instead of IW, we were having IB, influence factor B, okay, IB. So here Westcard influence coefficient, there business influence, but Q by Z square was there, here also, there also. So here only this factor is changing. Okay, I here different, IW is different there, IB was different. Again, if you work out these theories and substituting the different R by Z values, and if you have a table here, what you see is when you compare these both the results are business theory and Westgard theories, so values of business are considerably smaller than the values of Westgard is considerably smaller than the business, okay. This influence factor and the particular load whatever you calculate, okay. So how you find out? Because based on assuming that R by Z is 0, 1, 0.1, 0.2, something like that, if you keep on calculating it. So IB also calculated, IW also calculated. Look at that, 0.477 here, 0.318. Okay, here 0.466, here 0.36. So values are less. It is found that values of Westcard is compared to that one is less. How much less it would be generally? Suppose if you draw a curve, okay, R by Z in x-axis, y in the y-axis, I and IV. Generally, here this curve falls in such a way that IW is the Westgard values and IB is the business. So business Westgard theories gives smaller values. Okay. Now here also we have same instead of Newmark chart, here we have Fenska chart. Okay, so same chart prepared for circular footing, and when you have a different shape, what you have to do is here load it, okay, and find out the how many area it is covering. Okay, uh, hope you have gone through that. In then based on that INQ, okay, influence factor, number of circle covered, and Q is the intensity. Based on that, at a particular depth Z, we can again find out these vertical set at a different depths. Okay, so that's what it is given. There are some approximate method also. Okay, these methods are tedious. Okay, this whatever you see business and Westgard, again we need to draw that Newmark or Fenskal chart. Okay, uh, it's a little tedious. So there are some approximate methods also given. Okay, one is equivalent point load method. Then what we generally do, suppose I want to find out a some area we have, right? Some area we have here, rectangular. Suppose I want to find out the vertical stress below that particular area. what I will do is I will convert this uniformly distributed whatever load of this particular cell into a point load. Okay, so that's what it is, a equivalent point load method. That means same exact how much load you have, so I will convert into a point load. Okay, then 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12, like the point load I will convert. Okay, these are the equivalent point loads. Then we can apply, because we know that what are the vertical stress at a depth z below the point load. Okay, we can use the our business 3 we can use. That's what here given here. Okay, what they have done is q by b square. So they and adding all the summation of all these q by q1 q2 q3 q4 like that q12 they have added it. Okay, like that also we can solve the equations. Okay, that's what it is given. And there are some more methods also, again approximate methods also given. Suppose we have a footing of width b, and it is assumed that the distribution one horizontal to two vertical. Okay, and see it may be distributed in such a way that at a depth z, suppose it would be generally b plus z. So the distribution would be in this fashion. Okay, understand? So so how we can find out this particular vertical stress below these footings of different shape? It can be square, circular, or it can be, so again approximate methods are been given. Okay, and approximate equations are given. Okay, for a square footing, for a square area b into b, the qz is equal to qb square divided by b plus z whole square. So this is generally the vertical stresses I'm talking about, the average vertical stress. Okay, depends on the shape of the load. QB into L divided by B plus Z, L plus Z. Okay. For a strip footing with width B and unit length, it can be Q B into 1. Okay, B plus Z into 1. For a circular footing, it can of diameter D, we can write the vertical stress can be Q D square by D plus Z whole square. So these are okay. Whatever you are seeing in this chapter, one thing is business theory, second is Westcott theories. Okay, and some approximate methods also. That means here we are not focusing on the self weight, but we are focusing on a footing or loaded area. Okay, some loaded area of different shapes are there. We are applying load. Once you know the load or intensity, Q is the intensity. Okay, how we can find out the stresses at a depth Z. Okay, how we have to find, why we need these stresses. Actually, if I ask you why we need this stress at a particular day, because of the stress, what happens? Soil will try to settles down. Okay, that we want to find out. Once the soil settles down, what happens? The footing also will settles down. When the footing settles down, there would be more cracks in the building. Okay, so that we don't want. We don't want any settlement of the footing below the soil. Okay, that's the reason we are much worried about this vertical or stresses at the depth Z. Okay, now there is one more small topic is left in this contact pressure distribution. That means how the generally we assume that the below the footing the contact surface is uniform, but it is not so actually if you see exactly. So but it again depends on the type of the footing and the type of the soil also. Okay, so there are some it depends on the soil sector interaction also, and moreover it depends on the relative rigidity, okay, of the footing and the soil system. That is given by this equation. Okay, the relativity is defined as the 1 by 6. So this equation is given for the uh, relative rigidity. Okay, relative rigidity. Once you know Poisson's ratio of soil and the footing materials and the modulus of velocity for soil materials. Okay, and the width of the diameter of footing or thickness of the footing. So everything depends. This contact pressure depends on all these parameters. Okay, that means when you apply load to a footing, there would be opposite reaction back by the soil. Okay, And we assume whenever we derive equation, we assume that it would be a generally constant, or you can say uniformly distributed, but it depends on many factors. Okay, so here what is given is here. Now you look at this one. Okay, this is very very important. Actually, they will ask in all competitive exams, in GATE and all. They say that contact pressure on a saturated clay. They will ask us how the contact pressure on a saturated clay. Okay, suppose here the figure 11 point, this shows that equivalent contact distribution under flexible and rigid footing, okay, resting on a saturated clay and subjected to uniformly distributed load Q. That means one footing is flexible, one is rigid. So where generally you will see that flexible footing. Can anyone give me idea where have you seen any flexible footing? No, you are not seen. These flexible footings generally is nothing but the, suppose you might have seen some oil storage tanks, okay, when you're traveling to train or traveling from one state to other state, okay. So you could see some IOCL, HPCL, BPCL, some oil tanks, okay. So for them the foundation would be on a little flexible foundation. That means we will use hard what do you say, tires, whatever we use for our vehicles, right? So hard tire mat kind of things, okay, with have some thickness. So that would be not very rigid, not very flexible, okay. So we say that that particular tire, hard tire, is called the flexible footing. Okay, so generally we use this flexible. So here, if you see, when the footing is flexible, okay, it deforms into a shape of bowl. Okay, with a maximum deflection at the center. The contact pressure distribution is uniform. If the footing is flexible, okay, footing is flexible, they will ask in the competitive exam how the deformation would be. It is like a ball, okay, and how the contact pressure for a flexible footing, it would be uniform. So here white color, whatever you see is the you can see the deformation. So here maximum deformation it will give, okay, but contact pressure is uniform. If the footing is rigid, okay, the settlement is uniform. Here the settlement, this is settlement, this is contact pressure, okay. The if it is rigid, then settlement would be uniform here, like this, uniform, but contact pressure would be less in the middle and the more in the edges. Understand? So you have to remember this one and visualize the contact pressure distribution is minimum at the center and the maximum at the edges. But the footing, when the footing is rigid, but the rigid footing settlement is uniform. But flexible footing settlement is not uniform. Okay, so there would be more settlement in the middle and contact pressure would be uniform. Here, settlement would be uniform. Contact pressure is less in the middle where is rigid footing. Understand? Hope you are following. Again, I'll explain. For a flexible footing, for a flexible footing, okay, for a flexible footing, uh, it deforms into a shape of a ball with the maximum deflection at the center. Okay, so the contact pressure distribution is uniform. If the footing is rigid, the settlement is uniform. The contact pressure is minimum at the center and maximum at the edges. Okay, the stresses at the edges in real soil cannot be infinite as theoretically. Okay, uh, so in real side beyond the certain limit values of stresses or plastic flow occurs. Okay, uh, but you see next coming to the contact pressure on a sand. Here the soil is saturated clay. So two things: saturated clay, rigid flexible footing, and the rigid footing. First, the soil. Which type of soil would be? Then flexible footing, rigid footing. Again, the settlement and the contact pressure, settlement and the contact, how it would be. Okay. Similar way, contact pressure on a sand. Okay, the soil is sand now here. For a flexible footing, uh, so what is happening here? Flexible footing, it is uniform. Okay, so equivalent contact pressure distribution under flexible uh, and rigid footing is shown here. Okay, the soil is centered in the case of, in this case, sorry, the edges of the footing undergo large settlement than the center. The soil at the center is confined, and therefore the high modulus of elasticity, the contact pressure is uniform. Here, what is happening is, for a flexible footing in a sand, here in a sand, okay, here what is happening is deformation settlement is maximum at the edges and minimum at the center, but contact pressure is uniform. But in the case of rigid footing in a sand, okay, settlement is uniform, but here the contact pressure would be maximum at the center. It would be little confusing. Okay, you try to understand. Okay, so two things are there. One is in a clay soil, second one is sandy soil. Clear. Clay soil, sandy soil. In the clay soil, we have flexible footing, rigid footing. In the sandy soil, we have flexible footing, rigid footing. So what we are finding is settlement and the contact pressure. Settlement and the contact pressure. Here, contact pressure, rigid footing. Okay. Here, maximum in the middle in a sandy soil. Okay. In the same rigid footing in a saturated clay, it would be minimum. Okay, but contact pressure for rigid, whatever may be the footing, okay, sorry, whatever may be the soil, it would be uniform here. Okay, but settlement would be maximum here and settle would be minimum here. That's what it is given. So you try to read this one, you will understand. Okay, and there are some problems also given here by using Westergaard theories. Okay, same equation they have used. Okay, 3/2 whatever we have seen. Okay, IQ depending on the R, different R by Z. Okay, just go through some problems here. Westergaard theory and the Bushnell theory and the equivalent method. So it's very, very simple. Okay, once you have, so that you can see. So, so we are able to finish. So this particular chapter is maybe next class we'll go for. So this is fine. Maybe consolidation or compaction we have to discuss. Okay, we'll discuss compaction. Okay, 14. This is very, very important, compaction, because uh, but for all soils we have to compact the soil to increase the density. Okay, so that's the reason compaction also very, very important. So whatever we have seen this till now is, if you recall, okay, if you are reading every day, classify the soil, we have learned classification, we have learned permeability, we have learned the effective stresses, okay, and CPS analysis, okay, by drawing the um, what do you say, flow nets, and we have learned about the quicksand conditions, how the effective stress would be zero. Okay, boiling conditions, we have learned the what else we have learned? Permeability is what, effective stresses, CPS, and the what capillary tensions, okay, and so on. And the last chapter we have studied about the applied load. Load can be point load, line load, uniformly distributed with some area, okay. Uh, and we have taken a small element and we could be able to derive the equations for uh, loaded area. Okay, loaded area can be rectangular, circular, and different shapes also. By using Newmarks and the Fensker chart we can find out. Okay, so you go through these chapters. Okay, it's very simple actually. I have taken a little less time because since I'm a little worried about your syllabus. Okay, so there's the reason. But you can go through it. It's very simple mathematics only. Some integration would be there to some integration or small calculation will be there, and you can. I'm sure that you will easily read it. Okay, understand. Okay, so with that I'll going to stop today, and from now, okay, from now again. All the chapters are very important, which I'm going to discuss from now. Okay, compaction is important, consolidation is important, and the shear strength is very important. So these three chapter I'll spend more time now. Okay, so compaction, because we have to compact the soil for a road construction or a dam, earthen dam, anything. We have to compact the soil. Okay, so you might have seen some road construction. Okay, we generally use rollers for compaction and all. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll spend more time on this compactions. I'll spend more time on that and the consolidations and the shear strength, where from this chapter you will expect more questions for in the competitive exams. Okay, so consolidation, compaction, shear strength, and so on. So again we'll go in detail. Okay, so still we have time, there is no problem, but you have to again go through and read Aurora book. You purchase a hard copy, and please don't follow this copy, you just read it, and it is a very important subject. Okay, you can expect a lot of questions in competitive exams. You may get good grade, okay, by copying or by using Google and all. Okay, but you cannot clear any exams. Okay, with this uh, for to clear exam you have to understand this well. Okay, because 3 weeks I cannot spend much time, because if you give me whole year, then very slowly I can go on each topic. Okay, and very slowly I can explain it, because otherwise what happens at the end, no, we have to go very fast, so it would be difficult for you to follow. So some of the things, videos I have, the elementary engineering video you can go through and learn the subject over. That is very good videos actually. I have shown some videos also. Okay, and try to understand this subject. Okay, so within a given time, three and a half months, right, or maximum 4. So understand this particular subject. Okay, so that's the reason. Some of the things I'm skipping, but not everything, wherever possible. Okay, so I hope you will read well and understand this particular subject.